Hi, everyone. It's Eric, the host of the Tech Talk at the Search Bar, a new segment featuring exciting information on the latest technology trends in business, such as AI, digital marketing, augmented virtual reality devices, and anything in between. If it can give you a competitive edge in business, we'll discuss it here on Tech Talk at the Search Bar. You may also know me as the SEO sommelier and CEO of Digital Neighbor, a cutting edge digital marketing agency based in Tampa, Florida. Let's get started. I'm really excited for today's guest, Vaclav, a technology entrepreneur, CTO, and technology advisor for startups and fast-growing companies. Today, we're discussing a very relevant topic, AI, and how businesses can carefully select the right automation and AI programs without falling too deep into the hype. Vaclav, thank you so much for joining me today.
Pleasure to be here, Eric.
Yeah, so I know we kind of talked ahead of time before we got started here, and I was really impressed and really amazed on your take and on your knowledge on AI. So I just really want to start off here for our listeners, our watchers at home. Vaclav, how do you simply define AI? And I know it's a very open-ended question.
Yes, exactly. Very good. So in my opinion, AI basically doesn't make sense. It's a marketing term which everybody latched on for no better terminology. It's catchy, it creates imagination, and it starts compiling everything what we used to say predictive analytics or machine learning. And suddenly, when OpenAI came to light last year, and with the ChatGPT, suddenly everything became AI, and it becomes more like synonym for tool like ChatGPT and other large language models where people say, oh, it's AI, like ChatGPT or machine learning. And again, these terms have very specific or different meaning.
Yeah. It's almost like when Uber came out, right? And everybody like, it's the Uber of so-and-so. It's disruptive, right? And so people latch onto those terms.
Yes. And the other challenge when we're using AI, we start associating with some human traits or human capabilities. And so suddenly we say, oh, AI is smart, AI knows this, AI knows that. And suddenly we're moving even further with the hype, and we associating AI with what again, it's used in popular literature as the generic AI or artificial generic AI or whatever, the term AGA or AGI, what people now saying. And it unfortunately, what it does, it removes us from the real conversation, what the technology is supposed to do and how we can measure or how we can then think about how the technology can be used in business, right? And that's what I think the conversation should be about, how new technology which is coming, how we can use it in business rather than trying to suck, into the hype of AI will eat us and AI will take our jobs and AI will murder us, or I don't know what's the latest.
Who knows where it's going to go?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. No, that's a great point, right? That it's just another tool for businesses, for companies to use in order to grow and maybe be better at whatever they're doing, right? So I'm just curious for you, Vaclav, in your experience, technology, or talking about potentially AI or whatever that technology might be,
sure.
Right? How can that transform customer experiences and help businesses be more efficient in connecting with their potential customers?
Yes. I think that from, let's say, CEO point of view, so you're out running a company and you hearing AI, and AI will do so many things. And I think it's always for CEO not try to immediately understand the technology. For that, the CEO should have CTO to be able to have the conversation about it. But what more importantly, and I'll give you a very, very brief story here. Many years ago, I went to a seminar and we had CEO coach, and uh, there were about 100 CEOs in the room. And he asked, and because most of them were guys, he said, okay, guys, do you know how today you can make $5 more in your business? And everybody, of course, yes, I know I can do it. What about $50? Yeah. 500, 5,000, 50,000. And suddenly there was this awkward moment where not every CEO would know how today to make in their business extra $50,000 or 500,000. It doesn't matter the number.
That's a lot.
It has to be a number. So as a CEO, you should be thinking, how can I make today more money in my business, and what would be the technology which would help me to get there? And then start thinking from this perhaps strategic point of view to understand, because the CEO should understand the business and see where suddenly the business can get pushed. And that's where the conversation with the CTO about various type of technologies can come into play, and say, if we use this new AI thing, can we make extra $50,000 or $500,000 in our business just today? And if you have answer for that, then you can start thinking, how can we bring this technology? How can we deploy it so we can really start serving customers better, serving customers faster, make the product better, make it faster, make it more efficient, whatever the savings or whatever the more business you can get. That's how I think people should, or CEOs or people running companies should think about it.
Yeah, that's a great point, right? So a lot of times, we look at technology first and like, hey, this is a shiny new object. Let's figure out how to use it, such as AI, versus let's look at it from a business standpoint. How can I optimize and my business? How can I potentially generate more leads? Figuring out where's that business problem and that we can fill in order, to your point, generate more revenue, right? So generate more sales, be more efficient, lower production costs, whatever those are, and then plugging in AI. Versus right now, it seems like a lot of people is like, oh, I have AI, which is the snake oil. Sometimes, right? It's almost like it's going to solve all my problems for me. Versus identifying starting with the problem that I actually want to solve.
100%. And 2 points to what you just said. One, that sometimes hearing about new technology and about the possibilities will ignite imagination and say, oh, I didn't know that I can do suddenly these type of things. So great.
Yeah,
let me think about it. Okay. The other thing which people should really, really be careful about when thinking now about AI, that everything what's deployed, what we would call AI, the ChatGPTs of the world and various other language models deployed, everything is in very, very early stages. It's right. So new. It should not be even put in production. It should be something, let's test it and let's see what these things do. Anybody thinking that it can be put right away into reliable production where you can 100% rely on the technology, it's definitely not there. And you might read various press releases. We just, we have another model and it's far better and it can do so many awesome things. Okay, I can still tell you it's still early, right? It's still not production ready, because production ready is something that you can turn it on and it works reliably, and then you can focus on the rest of your business. And right now we are not there yet. Don't get me wrong, the technology is amazing. Right. It's just not ready for prime time.
Yeah. Well, so let me ask you a follow-up there, is how far away are we from AI taking everything over, right? Like you said, we're in early days, right? I remember, I forget if it was 25, 30 years ago now, like when email started, when the internet started, and you see those funny clips or people, what is even an internet or what is email, right? And we look back and laugh at them. In 20, 30 years, people are going to watch, if YouTube is still around, they're going to watch maybe this interview or other YouTube clips of like, look at those idiots. They didn't even know what AI is going to be. And now we use it every day, right? We're going to be those bozos in the videos. And so I'm curious, what do you think, how far away are we, right, from kind of AI being as everyday as email is now? Because in early days of email, people weren't sure, is this electronic mail really going to stick around or not?
And this is, again, what we said at the beginning, that this is a great question, which only underlines that because there is no definition of AI, it's almost impossible to answer your question, because I don't know, well, I know what you mean, but if you take it literally what you just asked, it's very difficult to answer a question like this, because I don't know which part of that AI you actually mean, right? So if there is a technology which is supposed to help us to do something better, well, we have plenty of it. I'm sure that in your car you have GPS. Right. The question to the audience is, can you drive without GPS these days, right? Or you go to your supermarket and let's say you pay with cash, and let's say the bill is $15.76. And you give the cashier $20. The cashier doesn't even know the change to return to you. It has to wait for the machine to tell the cashier the change to return to you. Right. So we are already surrounded by technology, which, one can say it makes us dumber. It's supposed to help us, but it suddenly makes us think less. I cannot recall last time I was driving according by map. I didn't have paper map in a long time, trying to figure out where I am. Right. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Does it make me smarter or stupider? I don't know. Right. But so the biggest, the one thing which gets me when you go somewhere and the person who's providing the service is in front of computer, and you say, can you please do this? Or I'd like to buy this, or like to do this. And the person says, I'm sorry, I cannot do that. The computer doesn't allow me to do this. And so the question is AI taking over? Well, it already did. Because when computer says, cannot do it, people say, sorry, can do it. Computer says no. So we already live in a world where technology is telling us what we can do and what we cannot do. And so it will get only, it's not that there will be some, well, perhaps in the future, and people will laugh at these statements, perhaps in the future there will be something called AI, which will run our lives and everything, and we will have absolutely no say. But at this particular moment, it's not that the technology does something bad against us. We allow to absolve ourselves from any decision making. We absolve ourselves from free will, and we say, "Yeah, well, computer says no. Well, then I guess I cannot do it." Right. So
yeah.
if you have
GPS, have you seen the movie WALL-E? Vaclav?
Yeah.
Right. So that's what it makes me think of that, right? Where we're just sitting in our chairs and the computer, the AI is telling us, oh, you were drinking red juice. Now you got to drink blue juice. And that's the next big thing, right? Where we don't have any decision. And it's just telling us kind of what's the next big thing is, so kind of technology taking over where the human really takes a backseat, right?
And not only that, and again, you brought a very good point, that we should remember, if we talk, let's say the ChatGPT or similar ones, they are trained on data which humans produce.
Yeah.
And so one should think about it not as technology which knows something or learns something. That's not it. It's a reflection of humanity.
Yeah.
And so then you get into these, well, AI will do all these things for us. No, AI will do only what you will train it on. Because if you train it on something which you don't like, well, then don't say, oh, AI is so biased. AI is dangerous. No, what you've done, you took a content which humanity cannot even agree which one is right or wrong. We can took any socially touchy issue, from election to other. We don't have to go which one they are, because everybody knows in their own world, and it's of course it's a cultural thing, and all these things which as a humans, as people, we cannot agree on, right? And now we expecting that somehow we will feed the same information into computer, and somehow there will be this magic which will happen, that suddenly the computer says, now that I know everything what humanity knows, I will make this decision for your own benefit. Really? Yeah. It's illogical. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. No, and there's so much hype around it right now, right? Like we've definitely established that. So I'm just curious to kind of bringing it back to the business application, right? So if I'm a CEO, right, how can I avoid all the pitfalls of all this hype that's happening right now and select the right AI or technology for my business, right? So what would your framework be for that CEO?
Great. So let's assume that there is AI which does something which you would like to do. So one thing which we are not good at this particular moment in respect to AI is actually quantifying the outputs, right? So if you go into your car and press a button, the engine starts and it does something, and then you press the button again and the engine stops. If you deploy technology like this in your business, I want to make extra $100. Can I, using the system, deliver extra $100 reliably then day in, day out? So if you can provide the metrics by which you will evaluate the technology, then by all means, use any technology you choose. But you have to know that if you provide certain type of inputs, then there should be certain type of outputs, and it should be reliable, right? So that's and if not, then you have to assess if you are willing to take the risk of using technology which is not providing reliable output based on predetermined input, right? So many times we hear that the AI can now be as a chatbot, right? So you can put it on your website.
A good example, yeah.
Yes. And okay, great. Put it on your website and see what questions people are asking and what are the outcomes, what are the outputs which this technology is providing to these users. And are you satisfied that it's not 100% accurate? Or are you satisfied that sometimes it's just nonsense? And if these are the risks which you are willing to accept, and if you think it's not going to damage your brand and it will help you in doing more business, who am I to argue with you? Like, I'm not here to tell you, don't use it. No, I'm just saying, when you use it, you have to have very specific objectives to understand what the technology is going to do for you. And I'll give you a very simple example. Before we had AI, we had things like predictive analytics, which basically you take a bunch of data and you try to predict based on the training data, what if the new data comes in, what should be the outcome? And one thing might be churn for your customers. So can you find data points in your data about your customers which would predict that your customer will leave in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 months? And if you can, great. Now, what are you going to do about it? Just because the system tells you that, hey, your customer, Eric, will leave because they don't like the work you do. If I know that 2 months before that, what would I even do? What are the steps? So again, the technology is a small part of the whole business process, or understanding how to then handle the outcomes of this technology. Funny story. Air Canada, the carrier in Canada, had a chatbot on its website, and somebody went and says, "Oh, can I have?" I think the person wanted to fly to a funeral, and they have provisions for people in this situation. They get cheaper tickets, and the chatbot says, "Yeah, you will get it reimbursed later."
Oh yeah, I remember hearing about this. Yep.
Right, and the person did it, and then it was wrong information, and Air Canada, to its endless stupidity, tried to position the chatbot as an independent agent from Air Canada.
Oh, okay.
Mind blasting.
Yeah.
And so it only shows you that, are we really ready for this type of use of technology? And do we understand what we have to do in order when suddenly it doesn't work? And not necessarily we get sued, but there are complaints. How do we deal with that?
Right.
So use the technology, but understand its limit and understand the benefits. That's as simple as that.
Need to have like a disclaimer before you start interacting with the chatbot or using it. It's like, you're about to interact with AI. It's pretty stupid, but if you still want to continue, go ahead, right? That's so funny. Yeah. So an example that came to mind, and I know I'll try to get it as close as possible because it's an old example. I would probably say 12, 13 years ago, it was predictive analytics for marketing, right? It was Target sent this young girl, I think it was a teenager, either an email or a catalog for like their baby club for expectant mothers.
Yes.
Remember that? And so the dad got super, super upset about it. Like, why are you sending this to my daughter? And so Target had an algorithm, right, that based on certain purchases, right, which were very random things like paper towels, a bath mat, and maybe a curtain for your bathroom or something, right? And based on those purchases, they could reliably predict that person is pregnant. And so that young girl had purchased these items, and then it triggered in the system for Target to send her the stuff to enroll in their baby club, right? So the dad is very, very upset about this. Turns out the girl was pregnant. The system was right. Target was correct. And that's how the dad found out that his daughter was pregnant, right? So it blows my mind how accurate it was. And that's over a decade ago, right? That was a while ago that kind of that marketing automation worked. And so I'm just curious, if you know of any technology that right now is out there, like theoretical or in the planning stages, that you think we'll be hearing about maybe the next couple years, or you think it's going to continue where, the algorithms and the predictive analytics are going to know us better, than our own parents? Or, where do you think kind of more business applications are going to happen in the future for this?
Great questions, Eric. Really good questions. So the challenge is that in order to make these reliable predictions, because for all intents and purposes, it was still probability. Like the algorithm thought, okay, there is a chance that somebody is pregnant, but it was not for sure. Because I'm sure that somebody got the list from somebody that just bought something, and then so here is a thing for you. You go on YouTube and you start watching something, and then for some reason YouTube, people who like these type of videos also like these videos. Now, question is how accurate these recommendations are, because it's like, I would never watch this. Why am I seeing this? So the only company which is coming really close at that, which of course making news now left, right, is TikTok, which they were able to build algorithm in such a way that can really keep you glued to the screen for a long time.
Yeah, and I mean, I think almost the majority of the valuation of the entire company isn't the user base, isn't their technology, it's their algorithm, right? That has some value so high, which is, your point, very impressive. That they have somehow they figured it out there. But keep going. I just wanted to say that their algorithms, like their
you are correct.
Business
yes,
model.
You are correct. And so the challenge is, okay, so this is, let's say, for just short videos on TikTok. Okay. So they were able to label every single video with, I don't know how many parameters, to be able to run the algorithms which would be more reliable, more high accuracy of prediction than anything else we know or we have. Now, another question is, when you go on Google and search for something, and then of course there are immediately the ads associated with your search.
Yeah.
How accurate are they? Not really. Like when was it last time you really clicked on ad on Google?
Yeah.
And now go to any website which is showing ads. Do you even see them?
You just get, you have ad fatigue, right? Because there's just so many out there. There's such a clutter.
And so the question is, what is the data which the system should be collecting about all the visitors, all the people? What should be the data for the system to start making predictions of what you want to see, which ad you should be exposed to make real difference? And now we're going into, okay, well, obviously we are not collecting enough data about people, and what should be the data we should be collecting? And the one thing, or one of many things, which is missing in when we talk about training AI and how we can get the algorithms better, because we collect data, but we don't collect enough data about the context within which the event happened. And so sometimes receiving ad is great, but sometimes it's completely out of context, and the context is derived from either previous conversation or from the current situations, from your mood. Sometimes you are in good mood and you buy ice cream. Sometimes you are not in good mood and you don't buy ice cream. Well, how can the system predict or observe based on any data which has access to that you are in good or bad mood? Right. So we missing much context about the data. And I just wrote recently a post that the magazine ran some years ago an article comparing data to oil. The data will become the new oil, and somehow people latched on it and start using it left, right. And it brought few parallels. One, since early 1900, we were getting news that we are running out of oil, which still didn't happen.
Right. I remember learning that in school. I mean,
exactly. Yeah. You would be hard pressed to find people living today who didn't hear in their childhood that we are running out of oil.
Right. Yeah.
And because there are other articles saying we are running out of data. Again, absolute nonsense. We are not running out of data. We are running out of the imagination how to use the data, and we don't know. None of the data which we using today is based on context. Like even let's say you train AI on some book, but if you don't know the cultural context of the era in which the book was written, if you don't understand jokes of that era, the book is just a text which has very limited information. You have to have so many things to know about it outside of that book for the book to be no, I don't say useful, but to deliver the real message which you want.
That's a great point. Yeah, context is more important than content a lot of times, right? So understanding kind of, it's a great point, like with books or even words, right, that we use differently now than were used by previous generations, right? That's a really good call out there. So I'm curious, I want to talk a little bit more about your philosophy when it comes to technology, or AI as we're focusing here, right? So we talked about a little bit how, CEOs can choose the right technology, automation, AI. So when it comes to, a new technology and to implement it, right? And adapting to it, what are some of the measurable criteria you think a CEO or a company should be looking at to evaluate if this technology is doing what it's supposed to do? Or, the top, or AI, right? It could be any technology, really.
So another great question. Thank you.
Yeah.
So my rule is always less is more. Surprisingly, coming from a guy who was doing computers since I was in high school or even elementary school, I learned over the years that the less technology, or focus on the right technology. Don't get mesmerized by more and more and more. It brings you nothing but problems, because you have to train people, you have to keep it up and running, you have to do so many things. The overhead, which even from the technology you get, you have to always evaluate if the overhead is worthwhile of spending the money on the technology, right? The technology is always the small component. And I'm going back to what we were talking before. Focus on the business and hire smart people. And the smart people tell you where they see inefficiencies, where they can see improvement. And then you can start, because then you have very, very specific measurement where and how technology can help you. So, sometimes people ask me, should we implement this or should we implement that? I'm like, have you tried to do it by hand? Can you just try to use a spreadsheet or even pencil and paper? Because if you don't, you actually don't understand what you require. Like, every single time you deploy new technology, before you do that, you should have requirement gathering. So all the requirements should be known upfront. So when you're evaluating which technology fits best, and by the way, there is no such a thing as best technology. There is only right technology. Right?
I
so
like
even the best tool, if somebody says, this is the best. I said, in your context, it's really good. But in my context, it's not going to work.
Interesting.
And so understanding, I always do this. I do this mental exercise called Monday morning. Somebody says, you know what? We have to get this technology. It would be so awesome. We have to get this AI and the life will change. Excellent. It's Monday morning. You have it. Now, do explain to me how your life just changed. Well, we can do things much better. No. That's not explanation. That's just repeating the same thing. But explain to me how you're going to work better. What will be easier for you? What else you have to change in order to deploy the technology? And suddenly people don't understand, or they say, well, I don't know, but we will have it so we can do things better. But if you don't know upfront what the better is going to look like, then you don't know if once you implement the technology, if you achieve your goals. Like, will you make more money? Will you save time? What will be the outcome? Don't focus on the technology. And
so focus on the outcome, right?
Always.
Okay.
Right? So, you're running SEO. Nobody cares about what technology you're using.
No.
Nobody cares how you're applying this.
Right.
The only thing is your customers are asking, Eric, are we on the first page for these 50 words or
Yeah, no,
terms.
absolutely. It's all outcome focused, right? It's all about the
Yes.
outcome. People don't care what goes into making the sausage. It just better be that most beautiful sausage at the end of the day. That's what people care about. They don't care how it's made.
Yes. And so, and of course, your task is, okay, how can I reliably deliver on this promise to my customers that I can put them on first page of Google or whatever search engine you use?
Right.
And if suddenly you realize that AI can do this better for you, faster for you, because then you can measure that you have more happy customers, you can get paid the same amount of money with less effort, all these things. So for you, as running business, you are the CEO of your SEO company.
Right.
So you have to think, how can I improve my business to get more customers, and how can I make them happier? What would be the technology? What would I improve in order to achieve that? And
Right.
the check they sent you is the measure, very clear outcome of the whole thing.
That's right. Yeah. That's a great example. So, obviously for me, SEO is near and dear to my heart. For you, kind of, as that virtual CTO, just curious, what kind of companies do you work with? Is it across the board, or is there, a certain kind of company that you work with and that you consult with?
The best success I have with companies who have great ideas.
Okay.
We're running out of great ideas, it seems to me sometimes. People want to do the same thing over and over and over. And it's great when, again, the best projects I was working always on where there was a vision. There were a group of people and says, well, we have this vision. This is what we want to achieve. And it was strictly on the business side. And then they came to me and says, this is the vision. Where and how we can apply technology to make this vision working, reality.
Yeah.
These are the best projects because they understand the business. They are subject matter experts.
Right,
they know
right.
what works, how it works. And they just need help with the technology, but they don't want to be bothered by the details of the technology. That's not what they do for a living.
Right.
They do something else.
Right.
And so these are, it's not necessarily that there's a specific vertical which would be interesting. You can get, the most boring industry, but in the most boring industry, you can always find the disruption which nobody thought about. There's suddenly new idea how things can be done. And so that's where you can really apply. I always hear, we're looking for CTO who knows these following things. And to me, it's always they're asking the wrong questions or wrong requirements. It's like, I'm looking for accountant who can really do well the books, or, no, it's like, isn't that kind of prerequisite? But
right, exactly.
You assume that accountant can count. But what else the accountant can bring to the picture?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I have a few good friends, lawyers, and the conversations are always great because we talk about topics and finding similarities between technology and law. Right? And they learning about technology. I'm learning about legal stuff, and that's where suddenly you can much appreciate. So my focus is, as much as I'm learning about technology, I'm reading all the time. Every day I'm reading what's new and thinking about it. But the value which I try to always bring to these projects, that I can appreciate the business side and understand why things are happening, because only then I can properly contribute to it's like, again, in your business, you're doing SEO,
right?
And you can optimize for any words or for any term, right? That's what you do.
Absolutely, yeah.
But the question is it the right term? Like, okay, I opted, it's Monday morning. You are on the first page of Google for these terms.
Yeah.
Does that even change your business? I don't know, but I thought that it would be a great idea to be,
right.
findable based on these terms.
Yeah.
And you say, but it doesn't make sense. That's not what you do, or that's not how people searching for these things.
Exactly. It doesn't match, right?
It doesn't match. So to be able to understand outside, funny enough, I spent lots of time learning about marketing. I know, computer guy learning about marketing.
It goes hand in hand, right? Marketing and technology. MarTech is a field of its own.
Yes. And if you then learn what are the objectives of marketing people, then it's much easier to come up with technology which can support them in their endeavors.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because yes, you can see the marketing people as the people who do the book coloring. That's how they are. Hey, we do these nice pictures. We send that.
Right.
But if you take the time to understand and then say, if I understand correctly, these are your objectives. Well, here is technology which I think might help you, and have conversation about that and see, because they are measured, right? They have to deliver things which are quantifiable. And if they don't have the right tools, how can they do it? And because, again, finding the right tools might be not what, that's not what they do for a living. They should be doing market segmentation. They should be doing brand positioning. They should be doing all the other things.
Yeah.
And choosing technology, it's like me trying to come up with a new brand strategy.
Right.
I don't know.
Okay. Cool. I want to come back to something you said a couple minutes ago about how you're always learning about technology, right? So bringing it back to AI and how businesses can use AI, how do you stay on top of when things are constantly changing? Or do you have any recommendations for business leaders or CEOs that want to stay up on what's happening? Are there any books or podcasts or videos or blog besides your blog? Obviously, you want to give your blog a shout out. We'll put the URL in the show notes here. I really enjoy reading your blog, Vaclav, by the way. But other than that, what else can people read or listen to or watch in order to stay on top of the changing trends in technology and AI?
This might sound probably funny, but every single time you see something, find an expert, find somebody you can trust, and have conversation. Like, yes, I'm doing lots of reading, but at the same time, I have to talk to other people to hear what they think about it, what their opinions are, right? And this is, again, the irony of all. The more technology is coming, the more we have to think about it, and we have to talk about it, and create our own opinions, and then verify that it makes sense. Just by reading, you can read news, but try to find, in your area, in your sphere of influence, somebody who does computers, and ask them, and then verify with somebody else, what they think about the technology. Like, you can run your SEO business, but if you never ever talk with other people like yours about, hey, what did you learn about the latest SEO? Because that if you read something, it might be spammed because somebody wrote about SEO just to get, on the first page of Google when somebody's searching for SEO. But then you read it and say, well, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Right. So, try to find people with whom you can have conversation. I think that this is the again thing which we're missing. Whatever you find, whatever you read, it provides some information, but your context is different, right? Why would you need to know? Okay, so tell me, you're running this business. Yeah, and I think I need AI, and I was reading about these following capabilities. Okay, well, consider this, consider that. Let's see, how big is your business? Because improperly deployed technology can kill your business.
For sure, yeah.
I saw large organizations which they were deploying systems like ERP systems for enterprise resource management, and it kills the whole company, because suddenly everybody has to use the system, and if it's not well designed, it kills the company and or creates major problems. And so having conversations and spend time on thinking about it. Like it appears to me that people are very quick to come to conclusions about everything without spending the time to just think about it.
Right.
You are in no rush. You don't have to make a decision today that tomorrow you have to start using AI.
Right.
And if you are curious about it, well, just try it and see if it works for you. Maybe it will, in your context, it will be the best thing ever. And you start using it and you will learn more about it. You will become smarter, and then you'll be able to run the company better. Right? So, find, do the Google search, find few blogs, find few websites, news websites, and see if they work for you or not. And if they do, and find something which is perhaps industry specific, how people use technology in my industry. Does it make sense? Yes, no, I don't know, right? And just
I like that.
Spend time to think about it.
Yeah, no, so great recommendations there, right? So surround yourself by experts, find people that know what they're actually talking about. And then I also heard is try it out for yourself and test it out, right? And see if it's going to work. Don't just listen to what others are saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a question for you. I wrote down here. I don't want to miss it, Vaclav. So I'm going to read this, and I want to see your reaction to it. Okay. So the question is, so there's two statements, and which one of these is true? First, people will lose jobs because of up and coming technologies. Or number two, people will only lose jobs if they don't learn how to use up and coming technologies.
Both are true.
Okay.
Again, this is the cute thing when AI, this non-determined definition of AI is coming, and among other things, it will kill babies and and it will take all our jobs.
Right.
So I'd like to make sure that people check the missing chimney sweepers, the missing people who were delivering milk. I don't know. Maybe there are still few. I haven't seen corpses of chimney sweepers on the streets. Maybe there are.
If you ask me now to learn how to play piano, I would be probably out of job if that's if that's the new requirements, what I have to learn. So there are definitely areas where people will have a hard time to adjust. And I give you another very interesting example where again, people use their beliefs or their dislikes of certain professions to create these or to pronounce these strange predictions. So I've been to presentation where somebody had AI which would replace lawyers.
Interesting. Okay.
Great idea. And of course the room was cheering. We don't need lawyers. They are the pesticides. They are expensive, and we can have AI. Okay, let's go with the thought. Okay, so I understand you don't like lawyers, right? Okay, fine, I give you that. So, but if you forget your emotional attachment to that word, do you know who lawyers are? Lawyers are people who have extremely high cognitive abilities to absorb tons of text, to summarize the text and make conclusions based on that.
Right,
so if you think that this person in future cannot do basically anything else. They are just smart people, or they have, cognitive abilities which put them above many people, and they just chose become legal professional. Okay, so what do you think that these people will do? Will they starve, or they say, well, if I cannot do legal stuff, I can do something else? And they will find something else, let's say just below their capabilities, because they can do here and they start doing something else. Well, then what will happen is that the people at that level will lose jobs. So, and then it will go lower and lower and lower. And suddenly you reach a group of people who cannot even train for normal manual job. They can't. There's a limit. And whether people agree or don't agree with the term IQ, that's fine. But interestingly enough, IQ was developed by U.S. Army. Which,
I didn't know that. Okay.
Which U.S. Army needed to know what is the level of cognitive abilities of a person to carry command. If I tell you go and shoot, can you do that reliably?
Right.
Yes, great. You are a soldier. No, right. Army has no place for you. Mm-hmm. So there's even limit below the Army doesn't go to hire people. Or
interesting, right? Yeah.
Right. And so this is the challenge. We always focusing on that the AI should be somewhere at the top and doing all this amazing work. And if we really want to use technology to the benefit of humanity, we should be building technology which is helping the people who have less cognitive abilities and help them to do better jobs, right? Move people up, not start moving people down. That's stupid.
I love that. That's such a great point, right? Because there's so many people, we're talking about like accessibility even, right? Like making it possible for people to surf the web, right? Or to use certain technologies, because, and I'm going way to the other, so maybe even further down, right? People that might have a disability, right? And we're kind of helping them out as well. Anything from, people that, look at Stephen Hawking, right? He had a computer in order to communicate, right? Without that computer, he couldn't even, because he didn't have he had the brain, he just, the speech center wasn't working, right? So he couldn't verbalize. And so he got help with that. So who knows, in the future, we might have an AI that he can just think and it talks for him.
That's exactly it, right? And so suddenly we don't need to use the term AI. We can just use the term technology.
Yes.
And can we find technology which will help us to be better? Like, again, there's this strange obsession that we have to build technology which will replace us. And I cannot comprehend why that is. Like to help us to alleviate, certain tasks which are dangerous, boring, yes. But again, make sure that you know what you wish for. Because there is this, we were talking about accountants. So he would be an example for you. So when you finish your university degree and you become accountant, you start articling with accounting firm, and they give you, here's a box of receipts, do this, and it's tedious, it's boring, it's not uplifting. And you say, well, why don't we use AI to replace this nonsense? Okay. What people don't understand is that this boring, tedious thing it trains these people to recognize different type of invoices, different patterns. You learning, about your clients, and suddenly you see, well, this receipt shouldn't be here, or how do I categorize this receipt? So you do lots of, yes, it's boring, it's tedious, but it's training your brain as part of your profession. Because none of the partners in accounting firms, they didn't have AI. They had to go through this grunt work. And what happens in future when you want to become partner, so many things are suddenly so automatic to you that you don't have to think about it. And so if we suddenly start using technology which will replace certain type of learning, and suddenly you assume that somehow you can become right away partner in accounting firm because you have technology. But how do you even recognize that the technology is not working accurately? Right?
Yeah.
And so that's
the point.
So again, we should be very careful in thinking that using to remove the opportunity from learning things by utilizing AI. How far do you want to go? Because certain things you have to just learn. I'm sure that when you start doing SEO, you could do HTML coding by hand.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it's a skill, right? So that's a great point. Just to jump in there is, I learned HTML, CSS because I had to go in and make updates, right? And I've been doing it for a long time. And now you have automations and everything else that does this for people. And if it's great until it doesn't work, right? Like I'm able to go in and troubleshoot it because I call it paying my dues, right? I paid my dues of understanding basic coding, and something that I had to do because those tools didn't exist, and again, the tools now are great and helpful, but until they're not, right? If all of a sudden, this plugin doesn't work and you got to do it manually, I myself personally have the skill set to go in and do that because I was able to do that at the beginning of my career. So to your point, the example of an accountant is spot on, right? You need to kind of pay those dues and understand the foundational part of it in order to kind of be successful and understand how the entire process works.
Yes, and so imagine you hire somebody to your firm to work there, and if they don't know that, and they come to you and say, "Hey, Eric, this is broken. I don't know what," and you say, "Can you fix it?" "I don't know how." "What do you mean?" "Well, just go to this CSS file and fix it. It's most likely it's this or that." "How do you know?" "Well, where would I start?"
Right, exactly. It's a great example. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're running out of time here, Vaclav. I really enjoyed our conversation. I do have one final question, something I've always wanted to ask a CTO. And so I'm just curious, are you a Mac or are you a PC user?
I grew up on mainframe. When I was doing PC, I was doing a little bit of Linux, and now I'm firmly in the Mac world.
Okay, interesting. So you've gone full cycle there. You've gone through everything and ended up in the Mac world.
Oh yeah, and on the servers we had other operating systems. So yeah, I saw many things, but for me, I'm using Mac because. I tell you when I decided to go to Mac, because at home we had the PC, and I would come home every day and my family says, "Dad, the computer doesn't work. Dad, I can't upload pictures." So I said, okay, I heard that Mac is good at it, so I bought it Mac. It took me a weekend. I migrated first the family from PC to Mac, and the first comment from my daughter was, "Why did we have PC for such a long time?"
That's hilarious.
And then I switched for my work for basically about work. I don't distinguish between work and not work. So whatever I do on my computer. And again, I keep it simple. You would be surprised how actually little I have on my machine. I'm extremely simple guy. I don't have many things. But for what I do, and this is the thing, I'm not saying that Mac is better than PC or PC is better than Mac. But in my situation, in my context, that's exactly what I want.
Love it. Yep. I like how we came full circle, because that's what I was thinking earlier when you said as well, there's not the best, right? There's just what's best for your situation,
Yes.
and what works best for you. So agreed. I'm a Mac user as well. And it's just because in my industry, that's what everyone uses, right? Someone sends you over a Keynote or a Pages file. I can't open it on a PC, right? So I want to keep it as simple as possible there. So I couldn't agree more. It just depends, whatever works best for you. And also my final thought is, if we all go into one camp, there's not going to be any competition. Without competition, there's no innovation. Without innovation, technology is just going to be stagnant, right? So I'm all about having great competition. So thank you so much for joining here, Tech Talk at the Search Bar, Vaclav. It was a pleasure having you. And everyone else, if this is your first time listening, please subscribe where fine podcasts can be found. Everything that we talked about will be in the show notes with all the links. You can connect with Vaclav, myself, Eric on LinkedIn to follow our journeys. And Vaclav, thank you so much for joining today. It was absolutely my pleasure.
Thank you very much. It was a fun conversation. Appreciate it. Great questions, Eric. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.